The Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh, you're very welcome.
It's very cool. People, I'll let you know, Kevin brought a giant heavy bag filled with sand that has to weigh north of 200 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think it's about 250. Yeah. It was really a lot of fun getting that in my car by myself.
Is that your preferred method for conditioning your shins?
For sure. You know, the thing with shin conditioning, a lot of people do, you know, they smack themselves in the shin with bottles and kind of stupid things like that. But you're not really creating what you need to, which is overall conditioning, overall strengthening of the bone. All you're really doing is deadening little spots in your nerves, but that's the worst thing you can do without strengthening your bone. So you're deadening the nerves, but not strengthening the bone overall. And if you're not doing that, you're going to think your bone's a lot stronger than it is, but it can't handle the impact. So with a sandbag, you're covering much more surface area and, you know, applying it in a realistic situation where you're able to throw kicks repeatedly at this thing. And what you really want to do is do it to a degree that it's causing a certain amount of pain, but you're able to do this daily with repetition, because that's how you continually develop. Just like getting stronger at anything, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. You got to just do this every day. Just at the end of your session, knock out a few kicks, and then again tomorrow, and again the next day, and you slowly and steadily are able to go harder and harder and develop this strength and conditioning in your shins.
So the idea is that you're making like these little tiny microfractures, right?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like I said, you want to be able to cover a good surface area, so you're hitting it all kind of at once, as opposed to like little spots, which is what happens when you just whack it with a bat or something like that.
My experience with whacking it with a bat is everybody kind of quits. You're like, hey, I'm going to condition my shins, and then they just go, what the fuck am I doing? And they stop doing it.
Well, the thing too with when you're able to kick like that is you can kind of slowly build up. You know, you start a little bit lightly and develop a little bit stronger, and you kind of create a little bit of a crease, and you know, as you get going, your brain can kind of wrap itself around it a little bit better, and then you start going harder and harder, and by the end of, you know, your 5-10 minute session, you're putting some serious weight into that, and you're not noticing it as much.
Yeah, we were talking about your knee, that you had a fracture in your knee that you didn't realize you had. Yeah, and that's it's weird. Like, the thing that disturbs me maybe the most in kickboxing, and so I've only seen it a few times, is when someone checks a kick and their leg snaps in half. Yeah, like Tyrone Spong when he fought Gokhan Saki, or Anderson Silva when he fought Chris Weidman. Same thing. That snap of when the shin gives out, like that. Can you prevent that from doing this?
Obviously, it's one of those just freak things that happens. You know, clearly with those guys, you can have the most conditioned shins in the world, but you catch them the wrong way at the wrong time, it can happen. And it's rare, but it does happen, and it doesn't really matter how long you've been doing this, how strong your shins are. Sometimes things just break.
I always wonder how many guys have little breaks and they don't know about it too.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Probably a lot.
Yeah. They said that's what happened with Anderson. That Anderson threw a kick and he broke it before that. Yeah. Like, he felt something was wrong, and then when he threw that second kick and it snapped in half, that's why it did that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, Weidman was checking it perfect. He was checking it right at the top of his knee.
Yeah, and you know, that's a big thing with you know, fighting. A lot of people tend to just blindly just pick their shin up, you know, as opposed to paying attention to where it is on your shin that it's hitting. Just like when you're kicking, you need to pay attention to what piece of your leg you're hitting with, which piece of your shin you're checking with, and the higher up on your shin it is, the harder it's going to be. And when you're southpaw versus orthodox and throwing that inside leg kick, you're coming up upwards at an angle, which tends to be like low on your foot or your ankle, and then you're checking with high up by your knee. So you have the smallest part of your shin connecting with the hardest part of somebody else's, and with that's just the one that tends to do that.
Yeah, it's a shin on shin contact is such a brutal thing. Like, I think everybody should experience it once. Yeah. You know, just crack. That.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is, it doesn't matter how long you've done this for. We watch these fights and assume that they don't feel pain and that it doesn't bother them. But even guys with hundreds and hundreds of fights, you see them the next day and they're gimping around pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, we have this idea in our brains that eventually you're going to get to a point when you just don't feel pain and it doesn't bother you. But eventually you realize that never happens, you know, and it's better to get that out of your head now. You know, Muay Thai and kickboxing and anything that's bone on bone it's going to be painful. And that's part of the art of it. You learn how to place your kicks better and pay attention to what you're doing. And yeah, of course you develop your shin conditioning and that kind of thing, but it always hurts. It's always going to hurt.